Good afternoon, everyone. By now you know the story. Arctic vortex spinning down into Texas, all-time record demand for electricity, power outages, having to draw power from the rest of the United States Central, cascading power failures, prices rising from $25 a megawatt to $9,000 plus. Wow, electricity bill's going to be high. Citizens pinch lining up in freezing temperatures to get food. Pipes breaking all over the place, and the inconvenient conversation they do not want you to have about this event. The United Nations wants to talk about microgrids. How about magnetic-powered motors? Using the Earth's magnetic field, the patent's been around since the 1880s. We have now people building them, but they never come to commercialization. We need to go from small and scale it up to this size using magnetic motors, so we never have to rely on green energy or fossil fuels again. That's where they want to get you stuck. The conversation between solar panels and windmills and fossil fuels. What about the diagrams here? You can easily find even the CAD drawings and build your own magnetic motors. Here's some that people have built after using these same CAD drawings, 3D renderings. And what's most interesting, the old Tesla tower, 1901. Wait, 2018, new wireless power towers in Texas of all places. This grand solar minimum is going to bring in more intense storms, so we should really think about growing food indoors in a more efficient manner using magnetic motors and rotary gardens. No, that'll be too inconvenient. You know why? Because companies won't make money, so you'll never see this technology rolled out. This is the conversation they don't want you to have. They want you to keep the conversation between, oh, should we have windmills? Oh, there's too many windmills. Or should we go back to natural gas? No, stop it all. I want a one-time purchase of this type of motor where I have electricity indefinitely in my home and I never need to pay a power utility company ever again. This is what they don't want you to talk about. This is a no-go topic for moving forward with microgrids in the UN. Bring it up now, and this should be the focal point of where we want to go with our conversations, not back to the old school and the old world. Let's move ahead to the next century and the next millennia in thinking on power generation and food production in this grand solar minimum. New studies show that by the time people reach their middle ages, the body often produces less than half of the collagen it did in their youth. Collagen is the main building block in our skin, making up 70 to 80% of it. This is why we get sagging skin and wrinkles as we age. If you want to look younger, you must supplement collagen, which will improve your skin's elasticity, make it smoother, more plump, and more youthful looking. That's why Ageless Multi-Collagen provides 5 key types of collagen you need from 4 different sources, essential to optimally support an array of full-body benefits. No odor, no taste, no clumping, unlike other collagen supplements. And this is why I recommend Health with Adapt 2030. Ageless Multi-Collagen, and look at that, I need another bag already. Quick way for youthful appearance. Use the link in the description box below for 51% off my favorite Ageless Multi-Collagen. And now on with the video. And for those of you new into the subject of magnetic motors, remember when you were a kid and you played with magnets and you pushed them together and then they had that effect where they repelled themselves and they pushed themselves apart? To make something spin right now, really easy to do. We even have intense magnets that are so much more powerful than the ones you ever played with as a child, to drive these things at something like 6,000 RPMs. And if you think it's fanciful, what I find fanciful is the reason that since the 1880s, these magnetic motors have not been improved on and rolled out into the public. Can you say suppressed technology? These are the actual patents from Nikola Tesla. Not only 1, but 2, but 3, but 4 different magnetic-driven motors producing electricity off the Earth's magnetic field. 1888. Wow. You think after 125 years or so that somebody would have improved on this? Nope. You still got to pay the power utility companies. So when it comes down to centralized power, we're at the point they can't provide any longer. New record peak demand, 69,000 megawatts. So remember, 1,000 megawatts is a gigawatt. So we could also say 69.15 gigawatts. That was way too much. 3,200 megawatts are 3.2 gigawatts, higher than anything ever recorded, even back to 2018 at all-time record power demand. Now looking over here at Southwest Power Pool. So Texas needed a draw on that, and what it affected was cascading blackouts all the way up in the red zone there. This is not sustainable, nor will it be moving forward, because as we're in this economic contraction anyway, from the non-essential businesses closing and everybody's livelihoods ruined for some purpose, yet unknown, pricing from $25 a megawatt up to $9,000 a megawatt, you can imagine your electricity bills are going to jump from tens or hundreds up to thousands. It is going to shock you when you get your power bill this month. But another no-go topic is this grand solar minimum. It's a 400-year repeating cycle where society gets a reset button in itself. The economy collapses, population migration, and government change. And we're heading into another grand solar minimum right this second. Do you think the weather's becoming so strange and unexplainable because we had an effect on the planet? Why don't we look at cycles in history and notice that solar activity has a much greater effect in terms of how the jet streams move, because electromagnetically, the way our Earth's magnetic field, and you start to hear about it, Earth's magnetic field's wandering all around, that's a direct effect of our sun going into a low activity state. The two are connected. And the further we go down into this, as you saw that chart, this grand solar minimum's just begun. We're going to have to go through this through 2032, 2033. Midway point around 2025, 26. This is just the beginning of the changes. These intense events are here to stay, and they're going to get more intense as we move through, especially 2024. Can't explain that, too inconvenient. Don't talk about it. Snow was a thing of the past. The Arctic would be ice-free by 2013. And here we sit, all-time record snow, and unbelievably blistering record cold all the way through Mexico. Does anybody want to ask a question about that? Why those projections never panned out, but we got the complete 180-degree opposite of what the experts told us was going to happen? I'm staying with the solar activity experts on this one. Grand solar minimum, inbound. Do a little more research about that. It'll shock you, and you'll understand why the reset's here, why the great reset's here, why the control mechanisms for food, because we're not going to be able to grow enough food to feed everybody. That's the control mechanism. Hungry people, you don't know what their actions are going to be. This is the reason the control grid is coming down so hard and so fast right now. We are in the first year of not being able to grow enough food, and if we are, it's going to be taking 100% out of full stockpiles. And here we go. Food prices up, utility prices up, gasoline prices up. Why do you think they're talking about universal basic income? You're not going to be able to afford your life moving forward, and you are going to be on the streets wanting change. So here we sit, in earnest, with real effects from the grand solar minimum. These polar vortices are a direct reflection of moving jet streams because our magnetic field can't hold them in place any longer. So let's talk about magnetics. This is the elephant in the room that is smashing all the china in my personal Hummel collection's been broken by the elephant's trunk, but still nobody wants to talk about it. The amazing magnetic powered motors. Yes, now think of this as giant industrial, and move it up to this scale right here where we should be already using magnets to generate power cleanly, indefinitely, one-time investment. And you say, well, I've never heard of that. How was that even possible? Well, let's go back to the 1800s and take a look how it was invented and really let your mind expand on why this technology has been suppressed. And anybody who tries to bring this to commercialization has difficulties. You saw the previous two patents that I showed you earlier. Here's yet a third one. You can go to Zagreb in Croatia, capital, and check out Nikola Tesla's laboratory. Just look online. You can find 16 different working devices right now that use magnets to move and spin something to generate electricity. 16. Not these three I'm showing you. Now what I'm going to start with is the home-sized devices that put out 10 kilowatts. This is enough to drive your home. This little tiny device right here can power your home indefinitely for a one-time purchase. And suddenly, out of nowhere, this conversation about microgrids pops up. Microgrid, microgrid. We need it for the Great Reset, green energy, microgrid. This centralized system is no longer workable. I'll agree. But what they don't want to talk about is the ultimate microgrid right here. It's only a one-time purchase. But see, then government loses control of taxation. Government loses control of you having to pay for your power. And if you can reduce your, think about that. Reduce your utility bills and electric bills to zero. How much more extra money would that put in your pocket every month? Then if we start to think about electric devices, oh, now electric cars, what if you could charge your car for free? Right now it costs you, what, 18 bucks to fill up a Tesla? What I found real interesting was during this power outage in Texas, to fill up a Tesla with the electricity recharge, $900. So think about what utilities would be if they were absolutely free. You buy this thing for less than $1,000. You have no more utility bills. You can charge your electric devices indefinitely for free. How much extra capital does that put in your pocket? And then how much control does that take away from government? Because the government's all about, oh, these people, they're getting stuck in dire straits, they're getting pinched, they have to stand in the cold weather. See, this is what I was talking about before the winter started with all the restrictions going into supermarkets. You can only have this many people in at a time. And I was like, what if it gets incredibly cold? Do you think people will still stand in line to go get food? And here's your answer. They're going to starve if they don't get food. So what you see is what you get. And with the power being out, a lot of pipes are freezing. And this is not a sight I want to see in my house. Icicles from the broken pipes down through my electrical system. Temperature's 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, what if your power goes out? Do you have an emergency plan beyond putting more blankets on? And even those who did have propane tanks, you notice the propane's gone, so then what? And this whole thing about making wood stoves illegal and the legislation, see, we're getting pinched here. This is becoming a real life issue. But if you were producing the power in your home with magnetic motors, and here's some more diagrams for you, that would not even be an issue. You could provide as much power as you wanted indefinitely, cold outside, not, power grid down, doesn't matter. You're creating your own power in your house. And I'll bring you back to a couple more schematics here. These are really good. It shows you how these diagrams work in the way that one magnet pushes the spindle to the next magnet, and then that releases its force and gets drawn forward by the next magnetic field, and then it continues to spin indefinitely. And here are some more schematics. I linked everything below with all the CAD drawings and all of the motor blueprints. So if you want to build one of these on your own, you certainly can. I would say go for it, but if you bring it out into commercial production or try to share the idea on a commercial side, you're going to have a serious problem. This is what it looks like for the home-sized devices. Now, they're quite loud at the moment, so you're going to need a muffling box on top of that, because when they spin, they're quite loud. Oh, gee, how would I know that? So if you're going to use CAD, this is what you'll come out with. You can really get a good indication of what the motor components are going to be like. And again, if you want to come out with the blueprints and the diagrams, you certainly can. Now, I'll take it a step up further into 3D printing here. And this is what you can come up with if you're going to print something in your own home, or if you have a local area where you can take these CAD renderings and then you can go ahead and print this out. So the magnets are going to slot in those spaces that you see in the flywheels there. Remember, the orientation is very important. You can't just put them in any way you want. They all have to be oriented north, and they all have to be oriented south, so they push off of each other. A little bit more close in here where you can really see how the magnets need to be spaced in there. So when you have your magnets, when you get them out of the box, when you buy them, you're going to have to mark them all north-south, and you need glue to put them in too. They're not just going to stay there. You're going to have to think about gluing them in place. And this is what you can come up with as an end result. And there's a bunch of different polymers that you can use to make sure that this thing doesn't shatter while it's spinning, because RPMs are anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 RPM, and this thing gets a lot of centrifugal force. And you can see all the neodymium magnets in there that are pushing off against each other. And like I said, all these diagrams and the schematics to build one of these I've linked below in the description box, and I wish you the best in doing this so you can create your own power at your house and not have to rely on the grid anymore. The powers that be do not want you to have your own independent power generation. They want you to be reliant on the grid. They want you to be reliant on their distribution systems. It's been like that for more than 100 years, and now suddenly we're in the Great Reset where everybody needs to be equal. Oh, they care so much about us. Universal basic income, everybody, oh, da, da, da. What's the sudden change? The grand solar minimum's the sudden change. They know that during these 400-year cycles that the economy is going to shift anyway. I mean, there's really nothing they can do, these elitist and banking cartels, to keep it together. Nature's going to override that. They're going to try to control the narrative riding on top of a natural cycle. And here we sit. With wholesale power prices at $9,000 a megawatt. Gee, what a bargain. I want to take you back to Wycliffe Tower. This is the original Tesla tower that was destroyed by J.P. Morgan way back last century. Couldn't have free wireless power. Are you kidding me? There's no meter on it. You can't have that. 1901. And you know what? The experimentation for wireless power is back again. 2018. These are the new wireless towers. Wow, they look very similar to the old 1901. Do you think there's been any technology development, and why has this been suppressed? And what I find most interesting is, where are the new Tesla towers? In Texas, the same exact place we're having this power outage. Do you think this is just a coincidence? Or do you think they're going to try to debut wireless power in Texas first because of the grid down? Because I know these same people experimenting with the Tesla towers are also experimenting with these different Tesla oscillators. And it's very interesting. If you double that up, you get the infinity symbol. I wonder if anybody else knew this through history, that you could create power in so many sacred shapes that we see that represented throughout the last 10,000 years of human civilizations and societies. Pyramids and infinity symbols. I wonder if there's something to that. And a little bit woo-woo for you here. You know, this whole thing about the data dumps of UFOs and different technologies, etc., coming out. Well, an interesting fact that I have seen, the discharge off of these UFO craft is electricity. The plasma field glow around these in the night sky, changing colors. So I'm wondering if this data dump of UFO also has included in it some sort of free energy technology like the magnetic motors. You can see the narrative already. Microgrids, release of UFO technology. Wow, we're suddenly going to get our magnetic motors, and it's right all focused in Texas. So the decentralized grid is only one part of this, but centralized food production needs to be decentralized quickly and globally as well, because every grand solar minimum would come into massive global food shortages as the northern latitudes cannot grow enough food, as we're starting to see right now. Bring in rotary grow technology, but this requires power. And you want to take a look at Omega Gardens to see exactly what I mean on this. So if you were to couple this magnetic motor with indoor vertical rotary technology for food production, imagine where this could take our society in terms of you growing your own food. But again, you're off the system, you're off the grid. You don't need the centralized system much anymore. If you could use these devices and grow part of your food that you need for your family, not have as many trips to the supermarket, have no power utility bills, what grip of power does the government lose on you? Then couple it up, and then we could have centralized systems in neighborhoods or towns or cities, so the distance from you to your food is greatly reduced. But agribusiness is going to lose out greatly on this, because if you can purchase these by yourself, outright own them, and outright own a magnetic motor, you will not need centralized systems any longer. Oh, that's bad. That's nasty. Them's fighting words right there. Autonomy from the overseers of your life. You can't talk about that. Here it is right in front of you. Think about the new world. This is where we need to move to. And you're going to get pulled back like a shark grabbing you and pulling you down, kicking and screaming into the darkness while they try to keep that control web over you. This is a way to break free. Here we go. And if you'd like more information like this, please join me on Patreon/Adapt2030. And at the same time, a way to support the channel, my Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. You should think about having emergency food in your homes. I mean, look at Texas. And emergency heating as well. Ways to keep yourself warm. Having calories in your body is a good way to do that. There's going to be no magic solution, but we're all going to have to work through this together in order for our societies to thrive during this grand solar minimum. The link for My Patriot Supply, Patreon, And all of the schematics and drawings are in the description box below the video. Please share with your friends and family, and I'll see you next video.